both pilots.
Can you fly this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and today I'm going to review Cable #1 from writer Gerry Duggan and artist Phil Noto. I came into this comic book with very low expectations. In fact, I didn't really have any expectations. Gerry Duggan's work so far on Marauders has just not been my cup of tea. I have not liked it at all. I actually dropped the series, I believe, after issue 2 or 3, because it just wasn't for me. But Gerry Duggan's work on, like, Savage Sword of Conan, Savage Avengers have been excellent. So it's almost like he's two writers. When he's trying to do, like, funny hipster comics, I absolutely don't like them. But when he tries to do cool, badass, strong characters, I really like them a lot. My assumption was that this would be more in the vein of Marauders than Conan, just because it's also within the X-Men realm, like Marauders. And unfortunately, my expectations as far as that have come true. I'm not a big fan of this comic issue, and the writing has a lot to do with it, but, Phil Noto was an interesting choice as the artist for this. I don't really see him doing interior work that often, and I think that shows out, in the final product as well. I'm hearing a lot of positive buzz about Cable #1. It seems like a lot of people really enjoy this comic book. Unfortunately, it just isn't for me. This isn't a comic I enjoyed at all. I wouldn't say I hate it, but there wasn't a lot for me to like in this comic book, and so I'm not recommending this comic book. But if you enjoyed it, by all means, let me know why I was wrong in the comments, and we can have a conversation about it, because maybe I missed something here, because boy did I not like this one. Now let's get into all the details in today's comic book review. As I just mentioned, Phil Noto is the artist, and he is responsible for all the visuals in this comic. He's his own color artist as well. In my opinion, for the first 2/3 of this comic, the visuals are really muddy. I don't like the color palette that they use. It's too subdued. It doesn't feel vibrant. It doesn't feel exciting like what we have seen on Krakoa. It doesn't feel like it's on the same island, which, funny enough, is one of the strengths of X-Force. But X-Force has a completely different tone and feel to it than any other Dawn of X title, and this doesn't feel like that. Cable isn't gritty, which it probably should be. That's probably one of the failings of the comic book, in my opinion. It also feels like Phil Noto isn't really comfortable with interior work, or maybe he doesn't really want to exploit it to its fullest. A lot of the paneling, while very solid and easy to follow, is very basic. There's not a lot of exciting layouts or dynamic action pieces in here. There is some action, but it's nothing to write home about, in my opinion. But like I did mention, in the last third of the comic, the visuals really pick up when it leaves Earth. They go to another galaxy as the recovery of a sword, which appears to be playing into a future X-Men crossover event, has awoken 3 robots in a museum in a galaxy far, far away. And in that setting, his visuals are actually really cool. The paneling and layout's still boring, but the visuals are nice and crisp. They're cool. I liked it a lot. Unfortunately, this was a very tiny portion of this comic book. Overall, I just did not like the art very much. I'll rate it a 3 out of 5. As far as Gerry Duggan's plot goes, how do I put this? Cable, from his inception, is a very badass character. He's a no-nonsense, take-no-prisoners kind of hero, which I personally find really exciting. And I know some people might say, well, this is Kid Cable. Well, yeah, but that was also introduced in Extermination from Ed Brisson. And guess what? In that comic book, he's a no-nonsense, take-no-prisoners kind of hero. He was cutting the wings off of other mutants and murdering people, including an older version of himself in that comic book. It wasn't like he was just some kid playing around there. So I feel like the essence of Cable has been completely lost, and this has led to basically a kid's comic, which is great. I love kids' comic. I have 2 children myself. I'm teaching my son how to read using comic books, so I could use more good kids' content. But Cable is not a kid's character. It's not supposed to be a kids' comic series, and it just feels so out of place for me. And the story in this is, at least the main through plot, is kind of ridiculous and really reminds me of a cartoon I just watched with my 4-year-old son. So I was able to predict why the enormous lion was upset in the first panel that the kid said he's hurting. Yes, he had a splinter in his foot. So the first thing the plot does is establish the new quarry, which is kind of like the danger room, which is a coliseum of sorts where mutants on the island of Krakoa go there to battle in one-on-one combat. Is a proving ground or a testing ground. I did not like this portion of the story at all. I'm not going to show any pictures because there was already preview art of it, and Doc and I already covered it. But it was not a good scene, and I think it was supposed to establish that, Cable is some kind of tactician by using Wolverine's weight against him, because he's full of adamantium. Yes, Wolverine is heavy because he's full of metal. He's always been heavy because he's full of metal, and if you could just tip him over and defeat him, he would be the lamest, worst hero in the history of the world. So that was a stupid way for Cable to win, and I don't really want to talk about it anymore. Although there was one full white page, which is just the log book of who has fought each other in the quarry so far and who's won. Just an enormous, ginormous, epically scaled waste of space. One whole page to tell you absolutely nothing unless you're interested in who's practicing in the quarry and winning. After his defeat of Wolverine, he runs into a little mutant named Curse. He throws a dad joke in there about her name, which was really stupid. And he takes a group of mutants, including Armor and Pixie, to go and hunt down a little boy named Fauna, who has escaped to the other side of the island, the monster side of the island, which sounded cool, but wasn't. Because when they get there, they do discover there's an enormous lion, and he's upset, and the boy Fauna says, "We need to ease his pain." I immediately remembered a cartoon I watched with my son. He had a splinter in his foot. I was completely correct. Yes, this is a kid's comic. And that's the plot. It's not very good. There's more to it at the end. And there's actually one really cool reveal at the end that I think people will really like. And that might be a reason people enjoy it more than me, because they're willing to forgive all the stuff they read up to that point, because it was a good reveal. But nah, the plot is bad. I'll give it a 2 out of 5. Now let's get into some of the characterization. When Cable is battling this enormous beast while he's on the monster side of the island, which had the potential to be the best part of this comic book, but absolutely was not because it was executed so poorly, Pixie does not want the child Fauna to see what's going on, so she throws some pixie dust in his eye, and it appears to be LSD because he starts having hallucinations that it's actually a giant dog, and Cable is playing with the giant dog in a ball. Some people might find this funny, and I guess the visuals are somewhat amusing, but, I think causing a 6-year-old to have hallucinations basically by drugging them is a terrible concept and just an awful thing for anyone to do, and just further reaffirms my belief that there are few, if any, heroes on Krakoa. Don't be giving kids shrooms or LSD or any kind of hallucinogens, even in comics books. It's just weird. But by far the worst characterization in the entire comic is actually Kid Cable himself, because Gerry Duggan absolutely treats him like he's a joke of a kid. He does not portray Cable as the character he is, within the entire run that he has been in the Marvel Universe, with the X-Men. He's basically just a stupid kid joke character, and it makes absolutely no sense. I know some people are going to say, he's a blank slate now, because he's Kid Cable. But he's not a new character. He was introduced in Extermination. He had a full story arc in X-Force as well that established what the character was about and what he was. And Dawn of X in general has done everything that they can to ruin everything cool about that character. And Gerry Duggan just takes it one step further. Everyone's so happy that he defeated Wolverine, which was a stupid twist, by the way, that they're like putting him up on their shoulders and treating him like he's Rudy Rudiger, in the movie Rudy. And when he finally discovers this giant sword in this beast's foot, he puts it in the air and said, I never wanted guns anyway. I always wanted a big damn sword, or whatever curse word it's implied that he's saying there. It's just a stupid portrayal of the character. It makes him look like a doofus, in my opinion. I hated the characterization of Kid Cable the entire time. The dialogue is really bad. Actually, the dialogue in the entire comic book is atrocious. There's only one character that gets a good line of dialogue, and I said I wasn't going to mention it again, but I guess I will. But it's Wolverine in the opening scene. When Kid Cable cracks a joke, he says, "That a joke? Bringing a damn human idea like that into our dojo." I thought that was a cool line. It felt like it was from Wolverine, but literally that's the only good piece of dialogue in the entire comic book, and everything out of Wolverine's mouth after that or before it is just utter trash. He ruins the Wolverine character as well, but he really goes full bore on making Kid Cable look like an idiot. Gerry Duggan is also pushing forward with the idea that Krakoa is just one enormous orgy of mutants. Apparently he and Armor are getting down and have some type of romantic interest, apparently. Although in Kid Cable's defense, Armor, I guess, is a pretty attractive character. But this moment, this scene, would have felt much more at home in the New Mutants comic series. And that's where I think Gerry Duggan really missed the mark on this. This does not feel like a Cable comic. It feels like a coming-of-age tween story about a character no one's ever going to care about. And I think they've just done such an enormous disservice to Kid Cable and all the things that Ed Brisson did for the character. But at least he's making out with Armor, I guess. The only cool portion of this story, I think, happens at the very end. Like I said, it's the last third. There's 2 parts of it. There is the big reveal that I'm not going to spoil here, but it was a pretty cool moment. It happens on maybe the last 3 or 4 pages. But before that, Kid Cable does pull that giant sword out of that giant beast's foot, and he gets imbued with the memories of the man who held it before him. He sees how that man was killed by that enormous beast, and we also learned that by him taking that sword out of that beast's paw, he has awoken 3 robots on another galaxy who are apparently coming to Earth to claim it, coming to Krakoa. So I'm assuming this is going to be the through plot line for the next, 4 or 5 issues, and this should lead into, Ten of Swords, an event that I think could be cool, but I'm not very excited at the moment. I think this is the first hint at Ten of Swords in the upcoming event series. I guess you could say it was the sword being popped out of the ground in Powers of 10, but we're not even talking about that. We're talking about Cable. This is the first time in Dawn of X that Ten of Swords has really been hinted at, to my knowledge, although I'm not reading Excalibur and I'm not reading Marauders, so it could have happened there, I guess. Ten of Swords is coming, people. I hate the characterization in this comic book. Wolverine, other than the one cool line, was done dirty in my opinion, but Kid Cable was absolutely done the worst. I'll rate the characterization 1.5 out of 5. So that will basically wrap up my comic book review. I did not have high expectations coming into Cable. I thought Gerry Duggan would likely return to his not funny comedic roots, and that was certainly proven true. The jokes in this are not very good. The dialogue is atrocious. The story is very basic. It's boring. It is absolutely a kid's comic story, which does not fit the character of Cable, does not fit a Cable series. I knew what the kid was talking about as soon as it happened because I literally just watched that cartoon with my 4-year-old son. With that being said, apparently a lot of people are really enjoying this comic book. More power to you. I'm glad you enjoyed Cable number 1 and you're going to enjoy the series. I'm not going to enjoy the series because this is going to be my one and done. I'm definitely not coming back because Gerry Duggan on X-Men and Dawn of X does not do it for me, people. And, I know that, and I'm not going to waste any more of my time and money on that. And if Cable is part of the Ten of Swords crossover, I'll just have to miss that issue and save some money there as well. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Did you enjoy this comic? Where was I totally off base? Where did that sword come from? I'm sure lots of you know all the history of that sword, and you're going to school me on that and tell me I'm a moron. I can take it, people. Just let me know what you think. Overall, I would rate this comic book a 2 out of 5. It's not very good. I do not recommend it. But if you enjoy it, good for you. And I'm happy that you enjoyed Cable number 1 far more than I did, because I didn't really enjoy it at all. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll talk to you later. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.